Hi everybody and welcome to Fantasy Golf Picks. I'm Sophie Walker, this is Kit Alexander, and we are going to be recapping on the Tenerife Open and looking forward to the Canary Open today, this week, which is actually at the same golf course, which is something that we've seen a little bit of this year on the European Tour due to the COVID bubble. But you must have watched the golf at the weekend, Kit. That was an impressive display by Dean, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Dean Burmester how good did he look? I mean, you watch that and you think, how has it been 4 years since he last won? How is this only his second European Tour victory? He took the place apart, looked really good. Obviously, there's the odd sort of question mark with Burmy over the temperament a little bit. He can get a bit down on himself and a bit angry on the golf course. Perhaps that is the answer to why haven't we seen him win more when he's obviously capable of that golf. But he looked cool, calm and collected. He played fantastically, made it look simple on the par fives, which he needed to do, and then picked up his fair share of birdies elsewhere as well. It was an absolutely exemplary performance. And 25 under, 5-shot win. Fantastic. How did your team do, though, looking beyond Burmy?
Captain's curse continued. Callum Hill missed the cut. I was just like, I don't even know the guy. I felt like messaging him on Twitter saying sorry. John Gatlin, strong performance. My two Brits, Jamie Donaldson, Paul Waring, both, did all right. Nice feature. But what about Anton Rosner? What about that for a first round?
Where did that come from? I mean, we kind of mentioned that he didn't look like he was hitting it that great in Gran Canaria, but he still managed to put a decent 4 rounds together and do all right. And it was like, hopefully he's found the trick to that and he'll be fine. But yeah, that came out of absolutely nowhere. I looked at the score update and was like, what? Yeah. And same with John Catlin, that opening round, sort of you looked and you went, Rosner's shot how many? And Catlin's what under at this point early on? Because you got to sort of 10 under through 13. And it was one of those where you have to do a double take and check that the scores at both ends of the leaderboard were correct, but they were. And at that point, obviously your Catlin pick looked absolutely superb. And it was funny, he just never, the 2 late bogeys, and that sort of took the wind out of his sails, I guess, for the rest of the tournament, it looked like. My team,
I blame you for that. Because Kit texted me saying, have you seen Cutlin's score? And then as soon as that text sent, double tick red, he went and bogeyed like the last 2 holes. I'm like, stop it. This is only the first round, Kit. But how did your team get on?
Went too early on that.
Yeah, it peaked massively too early. How did your team get on?
Horribly, quite frankly. 3 players missed the cut. I had Joost Luiten, who made the cut as well, but then, of course, withdrew ahead of the final round. So ultimately, I only got points for 2 players. One of those was my captain, Matthias Schwab, but it wasn't massive points. And my best performing player was Garrick Higo off the back of the record-setting win the previous week. So to be absolutely honest, a bit of a week to forget for me and on to the next one.
Yeah, I think we might have made a bit of an error comparing the course in Gran Canaria to Adeje. I've got somebody who's on the ground in Tenerife, one of our sneaky little reporters. We're going to head over to Alex Evans, who is caddying for Paul Waring at the moment, and he's going to explain a little bit about this week's golf course and how he's got on as a caddy. So me and Kit are joined by Alex Evans, who looks like you're in a slightly better place than we are this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right, isn't it? Really, I haven't superimposed this in the background either. This is actual. I could have done it inside as well, but I just thought I'd take my opportunity and get outside. Sorry, but I had to do it.
No, you enjoy it. You enjoy it. It's miserable here.
Like I said, I'm quite happy to know that, but I shouldn't really be happy, but I am really.
So Alex is out in Tenerife at the moment. He's caddying on the European Tour. Alex is a PGA golf coach. He's a YouTuber. Check him out on Alex Evans Golf. And can I call you a European Tour caddy now, Al?
Official, yeah. Done it. I've done 2 events, definitely. That qualifies.
So you're caddying for Paul Waring. Tell me how that came around.
So, I mean, if anyone's watched any of the videos we do a lot of work together at home anyway. to be honest, we see each other every day. I don't know if it's a good move. Each other literally 24 hours a day. But yeah, Paul's he took a bit of a break. Hadn't played for quite a while since what his last event was. Didn't play in Qatar, so hadn't played since the first 3 events in Saudi actually. Just the bubble situation, I think, was not really suiting him, and he just wanted someone a bit familiar on the bag, so someone that he could have a bit of a laugh with. That person wasn't available, so he asked me. So he said if we want to do a few weeks. So we've got these 3. So it was starting in Gran Canaria, then the 2 in Tenerife, and then British Masters. And yeah, just something to, I think, make him feel a little bit more comfortable. Whether I'm doing that or not, I don't know, but that was the idea.
So were you a keep up, shut up type of caddy, or do you get involved with the yardage books?
Yeah, get involved. I mean, it took me a little bit to get used to the first couple of holes. I was like, eat a couple of free holes here just to get used to it, because I was like panicking, like, how do you do maths again? I haven't done it since I was about 12 years old. So trying to work a few bits out. But yeah, I'm quite used to it now. So yeah, I get all the numbers. And me and Paul have played golf since we were, 11 years old. So I pretty much know his game as good as anyone, I think. And we play a lot together. We hit irons sort of a similar sort of numbers. So I can kind of look at things from my point of view and say, this is the shot I'd play. And then he'd probably do something completely opposite if he had any sort of sense about him. But yeah, I do get involved, and it's got more and more as the rounds have gone on. So it's, I think it suited us. I think he might have a different opinion, but I think it has.
You've had your first week in Adeje. What do you make of the course?
Course is good. We played it a few times before, because we come out to Tenerife and spend quite a bit of time practicing in the winters. So we played it quite a few times before, but it played completely different from what we're used to, because the greens were so quick. We hadn't noticed how like slopey a lot of the greens were and how extreme some of the slopes were. And it played so much more, it's tough for the word. It's so much more like you got to hit it into such more specific places in the greens. The greens become greens within themselves, really. So it's been different from what we remember, but the course is really, I mean, I really like it. I've always really liked it. To be honest with you, I didn't see the scoring being 25 under when we played the practice rounds, but once the tournaments get going, the lads it's unbelievable, really, that they can shoot those numbers.
You're obviously a PGA pro. You play a few events and stuff. What's the difference between your standard and then seeing these guys? What would you shoot round Adeje?
I mean, I'd fancy myself to shoot on a decent day. I would be disappointed if I didn't get it round under par. But it can get windy around there. Like, what was it this week? Our third round, it was tough. Like, it was really breezy. There were still scores coming in, like 6 or 7 under. I think it's because, like I said, the greens are like, there's a few real tough ones, like the 9th massive slope sort of halfway through it and sort of curves around to the front. So you've got to be so precise with your distance control and control of the ball flight when it's that windy. And that's probably the difference. I think if I was playing there and it was complete flat, calm conditions, I'd fancy myself to shoot a good number. But when it gets breezy like it was, and you've still got to maintain that level of distance control to get it, to give yourself birdie chances, which are 25 under. Obviously, they're having a lot of birdie chances. But you've also got to add in a bit of ball flight control in the wind. It's those sort of little of extra that I've seen that are relentless, really, like the distance control. I mean, I think for Paul, I'm not being biased here, but he's certainly one of the best ball strikers I've ever played with. I know I play a lot of golf with him, but its distance control it's superb, really. It's kind of another level. So that's what you need around there, just to hit into those sort of specific areas of the greens. And I think that's where, I've watched the last round of Burmester's highlights, and that's all he did was just get it same distance, was always sort of pin high, hitting into areas where he was avoiding the places you can't miss, because there's loads of places you can't get up and down from. So I think that's, something looking to next week. It's definitely something they've got to do, hit it in places where, one, if they're going to miss, they get it up and down, but they're giving themselves chances as well.
Yeah, same venue this week, which is unusual, but we've had it a couple of times since the restart from the pandemic for obvious reasons. Are you expecting a very similar test in terms of the weather conditions and the course setup, or is the forecast looking a bit different? Or have you heard there might be some changes to the course to maybe make it a little bit different to last week if they can?
I think the forecast's better, actually. We had a bit of rain. We had a bit of rain in our third round. So, which that's not what we come here for. I didn't come here for rain. He didn't tell me it was going to rain. Stay at home. But yeah, I think conditions are meant to be good again. I think, to be honest with you, I don't know how much he can change. It's not like they'll put it in tougher pin positions, because over the 4 rounds, you know, I think it was a good balance. I think the winner just has to play very, very well. I know that goes without saying, but knowing that it's going to be, you know, somewhere in the 20s under par, you've obviously got to play some unreal golf, and you've got to be so good with putter. The greens are absolutely superb. They really are. And like I said, they're so quick, they're at right sides of the hole all the time. So I think we'll probably see, you know, a similar test. They change a couple of holes around a bit. I mean, it's normally a par 72. It's normally 6 par 5, 6 par 4, 6 par 3s. They've changed the 8th to a par 4, which is a real tricky par 4. It's almost built for a par 5. You know what I mean? The shape of the hole. So that tee shot takes so much commitment. You've got to hit it so far left, and every round we've played it, we've hit it right rough every time. So I think practice round we're going to hit about 15 balls off that tee and hit it as far left as we can. But yeah, I think we'll see similar stuff to what we've seen this week, to be honest. I don't see it changing massively.
So did you have any amazing calls or any disasters on the golf bag these last 2 weeks?
Probably shouldn't say it, should I? But I had a few bits. I had a few where I come in and I was like, yeah, I made a difference there. But I made a difference on the goal this week, last round. I don't really want to draw attention to it, but anyway, so Paul has a habit of always making birdie on the hole before we play a par 3. And I've said to him, if you're going to be first on the tee, do it on a par 4, because then I don't have to rush the tee and get the number like dead quick as we're first on. So he birdies the first in the last round, gets to the second tee, both got our books out, worked the number out. Yeah, it's like 158, whatever it was, into breeze. We did 7-iron the day before long, so similar win. Get up there, it's into breeze, pace it out. 8-iron, just hit a 160 shot, 8-iron into the wind. Yeah, perfect. All over it. Absolutely all over it. Like, yeah, that's good. Looking up. Why is that still in the air? Why is that still in there?
Oh, you went off a forward tee.
Yeah, move the tee, yeah. Move the tee. So we're both looking at it, like, what's going on there? It's the back of the bank. And I'm like, we obviously realised, and we were both like, oh, what's going on here? I said to him, on the way down, I feel like a defender who's made a really bad pass back and I need the keeper to save me here. And he got it up and down for par. And I was like, yes, get it in. Oh, I've never been so nervous over his 3-footer that he had for par. I was like, please make this. So yeah, lesson learned there for me. Isn't it? Definitely lesson learned. So easy, yeah. I mean,
the books are complicated. You've spent the last 3 days, probably 4 days, because of the practice round, walking to that same tee. All you do is you get in the zone, you look for the dot, and you walk forward. Especially if it's downhill, everything, all the perception changes.
Yeah. I mean, we looked at it and we didn't notice that the hole looked shorter. If you know what I mean, we were just like, it looked the same. And as soon as I did it, I was like, oh, Al, that's not a great shout. That good job with mates. Anyway, I think I've been feeling pretty low for the rest of the round if we hadn't. But yeah, I was so happy he made par.
Oh well, you won't. I tell you what, it's one of those that you won't do again.
Absolutely not.
I had a guy do it to me in Spain at La Manga, and he was, for the rest of the round, I've never seen anyone caddy better. It was like, I will make this up.
Yeah. Like you said, it was so easy to do. But when you've done it, you're like, oh, come on. The guys that was caddying for one of the other lads, he was like, did you not see it? Look closer. I was like, well, obviously not, no.
And you're not allowed to tell. You're not allowed to tell each other, are you? Like this, that no pro could say,
no,
Alex, that's wrong. That's you'd get penalties.
No.
So you have to just watch them do it.
Yeah, so we got away with that one, fortunately.
So in terms of this week, same type of, obviously same golf course as last week. Is there any type of player that a decky suits? You said you've got to have good control with your irons. Does it matter how far you're hitting it off the tee?
It obviously benefits if you're hitting it. If you're hitting it a long way, it obviously benefits. But what we found a lot of the time when we were missing fairways, it was tough to get the distance control we were looking for. Some of the rough can be, it's hard to know whether you're going to get flyers or not. So you play for flyers and it doesn't come out properly. It comes out a little bit dead. And sometimes you think it's going to come out dead and you get a bit of a flyer. So big premium on hitting fairways, like it is most places. But I just think because you're getting into such specific areas of the greens, you've got to be able to find fairways, and your control comes from that. So I think I would put on more, not necessarily a short hitter, but someone that's more accurate, someone that's hitting over 60% of the fairways, I think would do really well, because their level of control is going to be so much more. That's certainly what we found this week anyway.
Have you walked past anyone on the range and thought, oh, they look good? Has anyone, obviously Paul Waring's going to win this week and you're going to get 10% of that?
Exactly.
But if you didn't, is there anyone that you saw that you thought, oh, they're looking good?
A couple of lads who were warming up next to Jordan Smith looked like he was swinging it really well. Not sure where he finished last week. I think he was doing okay. He was teeing off around us, so I think he was doing okay, but he looked like he was hitting it really well on the range. We played last week, the week before last, in Gran Canaria with Sean Crocker, and I've never seen anyone hit it as far as him in my life. Unbelievable how far he hits it. So if he is driving the ball well, I think he could do well. I think he was doing well actually until, I don't think he did great in the last round, but I think he was doing well last week. So
yeah, same for Jordan Smith, level par final round. So,
Sean Crocker's on my radar for this week, Alex.
He's a proper ball striker.
Yeah, Sam,
proper ball striker. So, but anyone that puts well as well, anyone that is good with the putter. The highlights of Dean Burmester in that last round, it looked like he just held everything, and that's obviously it's key to winning any tournament, isn't it? But I think even more so around there, if you put well, I think you're going to do well, because you're going to give yourself plenty of chances.
Nice one, Alex. Thanks very much for that. You've got good insight. I think you actually sound like you know what you're doing.
No, it's all just a facade. I haven't got a clue, really.
Well, have a great week, and good luck to Paul. Right, some really good information there I felt from Alex, especially about the golf course, which is making me think slightly differently about this week. It seems to be playing tougher than I imagined. What about you? What's your thoughts on that, Kit?
Yeah, similar. It was interesting to hear that. And at times watching it, if a player got out of position, they were really struggling, and it could be difficult to save par. There were some really difficult up and downs, the slopey greens, as Alex mentioned as well. You get into the wrong spot. But at the same time, a lot of people made a lot of birdies and eagles. So I think, Alex mentioned about ball striking and being able to hit your irons pin high and your distance control and getting it into the right areas of the greens. I think it's one of those ones where if you're playing poorly, you can easily go in the wrong direction fast. And if you're playing really well, you can rack up the numbers. I mean, Burmy got to 25 under, 20 under, 19s, 18s. So, and I think that's going to influence me a bit this week. And I'm looking at kind of par 3 scoring, because I had a little, combined with what Alex has told us, I had a little look at what the players that did well last week did well in, and where they stand in the sort of season stats. And the one that jumped out for me was par 3 scoring. Now, there's a lot of emphasis on the par 5s this week, because there are 5 of them, and of course that's important. But with 6 par 3s, and the fact of what Alex said about hitting your irons close and into the right areas, that's obviously indicative of your approach play, iron play, and that's a big part of par 3 scoring. So I'm kind of leaning quite heavily on par 3 scoring, a little bit of par 5 scoring, and then putting, because when it's low numbers, you've got to get the ball in the hole. So that's going to be my formula for this week's team, which is going to have a very different look to last week's team. because also a lot of the big names from last week, your likes of Matthias Schwab and a few, Marcus Armitage and Jamie Donaldson that we've mentioned, Antoine Rosner, even though he didn't have a great week, those bigger names aren't playing this week. So even though it's the same course, obviously we've learned a bit and actually a little bit of a different field. So going to be a very different team for me this week. How have you picked your team and who's in it?
Well, I'm going with my theory a bit of what we spoke about last week, about the players that pack a bag, see you in, 3 months. The South Africans, even the likes of John Catlin, the Kurt Kitayamas that are American-based but have played in Asia, they're very used to just leaving home for a long time. I think when you're looking at the people that aren't playing this week, they're the guys that are going, I can pop back to wherever I live in Europe, see my family, recharge, and get back out for the British Masters. And when you don't, one of my best mates on tour was Australian, and she hardly ever got back to Australia. I think she went back once a year in the season. She went back for Christmas and everything, but during the season, it was once a year. And it was a real much of a mindset of, I'm here to earn money. I know I can't go home. So if you miss a cut, you can't just fly off, you're there. So I think we've got to start looking at that type of player, and you can see the ones that have won and done well. Interestingly, Alex said his name, Sean Crocker. That was somebody that has just come up on my radar. I'm a massive fan of Sam Horsfield, as you all know, and he did an Instagram Q&A, and someone said, who's the best ball striker on tour? And he said Sean Crocker. Now, if Sam's saying that, this lad must be very good. So I had a look at his stats. He's 12th in strokes gained approach. He's 9th strokes gained tee to green. Zimbabwean, so it's fitting that bill of people from South, like the African nations that aren't going to go home as much. He's made 6 out of 7 cuts, and he came 18th last week. So there was a sign of things to come. And I always feel that when somebody that wins, you think, hang on a minute. And obviously, he must be looking at Sam thinking he's doing well, must be looking at Dean, Justin Harding, those type of players. I think they'll really bring each other through. So this guy hits it a mile. I wouldn't say he's the greatest putter stats-wise at the moment, but, I think maybe a bit of experience on the golf course. He now knows where not to hit it, which I think is probably the most important thing they'll learn this week is, right, I've played it now 5 or 6 times. They'll really get a good strategy there. I think you'll see a lot less mistakes. Going for your par 3 man, I'm going to back Callum Hill again, just because he's now 3rd in par 3 scoring. So he's moved up, even though he did miss the cut. Now, bearing in mind, the cut was quite low last week, so you don't have to have played that badly. So it's, as you say, it's got 6 par 3s. His stroke average is 68.4, which it's the best in the field this week of the ones that have played more than a couple of rounds. So he's 7th on stroke average for the season on the European Tour. I just can't see him missing another cut. I don't know how you feel about that, Kit, but the chances of going 2 in a row with somebody that consistent this year, I can't see happening.
I'm erring just away from Callum Hill this week, just on the basis that I've given him the big prediction a couple of times and he's burnt me, including last week when I really did fancy him. And obviously it's the same course, so there's no, aside from the fact he missed the cut by 1, I think, this week, a lot of the same indicators that led to me liking him last week are obviously still there. He would be my 7th or 8th. He would just slip out of my team, so I'm not looking at him.
I have that same problem with Samoa, because I backed him early and then he was all right, but then he came back a bit last week. So he's my one this week of, do I put him in, do I not? You've got to put Garrett Higo in, right?
Absolutely. So Garrett Higo, there's no reason not to. He had a good finish in Austria, record-setting victory in Gran Canaria, 8th last week. He's playing well, he's confident, and he fits the profile as well. I mentioned I'm looking at par 3 scoring, par 5 scoring, and someone that gets it in the hole. Garrett Higo's 10th in par 3 scoring, 4th in par 5 scoring, and 3rd in strokes gained putting this season. He ticks all of the boxes for me. Calais Samoya, who you mentioned, you were umming and ahhing about. Again, for me, he's straight in the team. You look at those same stats. He's 12th in par 3 scoring, 16th in par 5 scoring, and 13th in strokes gained putting. So again, that recipe for success that I think that will be there this week based on what we saw last week and what we've heard from Alex about the course. He ticks all the boxes there. And then another one for me, Dean Burmester. I mean, 25 under last week. Similar to with Higo last week, why would you not just roll with it? He's confident. Like you say, he was prepared to be away for this period of time. So similarly to Higo last week, where he didn't overly celebrate because you can't really when you're in the bubble, there isn't going to be that letdown, I don't think, because he's in the game. His head is there ready to compete. And, you know, if he shot 25 under there last week, why can't he do exactly the same this week? And quite frankly, against a slightly weaker field. So those 3 for me are definitely in. The other 3 who I think I'm going to go with are Justin Harding, who we mentioned, and again, South African, ready to be away. Good player, has won already this year as well and is in nice form at the moment. Guido Migliozzi, who is, 11th in par 3 scoring this year, and is one of those players that when you look at those slightly weaker European Tour fields, his name kind of jumps out. He tends to come to the fore. We've mentioned it before. You feel he needs to get himself into contention going into the weekend to really engage with the tournament, and that's when you see the best of him. Doesn't often sort of backdoor a top 10 unless he's in contention. But if he's in contention, he can be absolutely deadly at this level. And my 6th one, and it's someone I mentioned earlier this season, and I think I had him in the team for Austria. He played 1 round, played pretty solidly, and then had to get withdrawn because his roommate, Joel Schoholm, tested positive for COVID-19, is Niklas Lemke. So we haven't seen him since that Austrian withdrawal. But as we've mentioned previously and in the preview to that, his form at the back end of last year was excellent. He's carried that into the start of this year. And again, statistically, he's 4th in par 3 scoring. He gets the ball out there as well, so he'll give himself plenty of chances on the par 5s. Okay, he hasn't played since that 1 round in Austria, but I think as long as he stays in the field, and I will be checking closer to the start of the event that he's still there because he was listed in the field last week as well and then ended up not playing. But if he's still there, Niklas Lemke will be my 6th man. Who's filling out the rest of your roster?
I'm looking at Sami Välimäki. So last year's Rookie of the Year, stormed it, didn't he? He won in a man. Not seen that much of him this year. I know he's played WGC, and sometimes it takes a bit of time to settle in, I would say, to being, you've got a target on your back now, aren't you? Rookie of the Year is a massive award. Last week, he finished with a 66. He came 22nd. Listen to what Alex says. You need to hit fairways. This guy is long enough, but does hit a lot of fairways. And he's gaining on the field in the putting department. Now, his stats this year, there isn't a great deal on him. And he's, form-wise, he's not got a whole lot. But I think in this type of field, he could really shine.
Mm-hmm. I like Välimäki.
Yeah.
I liked him last year.
I'm going to put Paul in because there's no reason not to. Alex seemed quite relaxed. They've obviously learnt about that second hole that sometimes they use the forward tee. So I don't think they'll be making that mistake again. So, and then there's another guy that I looked at just through stats wise. Is it Louis de Jager? Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Diaga, I think.
Diaga, yeah. 12th last week, hits it a mile, South African, averages under 70 stroke average this year, plays really well in this type of field. He's had a 2nd in Kenya, a 4th in Mauritius, 9th in Cyprus last year. And once again, that looking at your peers, it was really nice to see all those South Africans on Sunday, wasn't it? Really just get behind Dean and celebrate there. And it's once again that anything you can do, maybe I can do it. There's a feel-good factor around that bunch of guys at the moment. And I can see potentially somebody like that making a move. But I can't believe how much that the field changed this week. I was expecting just to kind of just hit re-enter as such with 1 or 2 changes, but like you said, I'm quite shocked at the amount of people that aren't playing. So there really isn't an openness to who you can pick. But like you were saying, Kit, look at par 3s. I think that's going to be critical. And like Alex said, it's about being able to place your ball. I mean, the course isn't that long, is it? So anything under 7,000 yards isn't long. So that means that it does play into a few people's hands. Obviously, length will be important, but I don't think it'll be as important as we originally thought going into the Costa Adeje golf course.
No, yeah, I think Diaga's a great shout, actually. I really like that. I mean, another name that I would potentially chuck in there as well is Sebastian Garcia Rodriguez. Not going to quite make my team, but he's had some top 5 finishes on the tour. He was tied 8th last week. Missed his couple of cuts prior to that tied 8th, but a player that I've heard good things out of the Ping camp about. He's a Ping player. They've been often with Ping, they stick with a player right the way through the amateur ranks and then sign them as they turn pro, and it tends to be a long-standing relationship. I've heard good things from within Ping about him, and they've got high hopes for him. He seems to have really found his feet on the European tour. It perhaps took him 18 months, a couple of years when he first was getting opportunities, but he looks confident, and I think he could go well this week as well. Perhaps one more for the betting, because I think you'll get decent odds on him than chucking him in your top 6 for the fantasy team this week. But yeah, just to chuck another name in there, I'd have a look at him.
Yeah, it's a great time for newbies to perform well. Like I remember when I was a rookie, trying to learn golf courses was so hard. You'd turn up at the French Open and it's been there for 15 years. Some people don't even need a practice round, and I'm there, not in the pro-am, trying to chase round to learn the golf course. They've done all that last week. So now they might only have 9 holes practice. They can relax a little bit, and the stresses of being that rookie and not knowing where the locker room is and where to sign in, all that suddenly goes. And the bubble over there it's not relaxed by any means, but it's slightly more relaxed over there because they've been there for so long. So they're going to enjoy stuff more. So you'll see the players like the Paul Warings, hopefully embracing that little bit of freedom. So I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I thought it looked amazing on television. I was very jealous of the sun and the fact that all the guys hit it on the 4th all the way past all those walls that I was struggling with when I was there. It was like it didn't even matter. It was like 300 yards, missed all the walls on the 4th. But yeah, it looks absolutely unbelievable on TV. And I will be watching it yet again because it's raining and I don't play golf in the rain. Don't know about you, Kit.
No, yeah, the weather has taken a horrible turn for the worst here in the UK, but to sound very middle-aged and boring, I'm quite glad because the sweet corn that I planted in the garden really needs the moisture, and so do the golf courses, frankly, as well. Actually, they were getting very firm and fiery already, even in late April, so a little bit of moisture in early May. We'll get these couple of days of rain out of the way and then we'll get back out there in the sunshine, hopefully. All
right, everybody, thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment below. We will reply as soon as we can. But thanks for watching and we'll see you again next week.